Welcome to the Procurement Software Podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire you about how technology is changing and shaping our profession. The truth is, there's never been a more exciting time to be in procurement, but only if you're one of those organizations that's embracing the change and driving new developments. And this podcast is all about giving you the tools to help you get there. So buckle up and let's get right into this week's show. Yes, hello, very warm welcome to another edition of the Procurement Software Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a guest who was originally founder of his own spend analytics company that was then acquired by Microsoft and then went back to being an independent company. And we're going to talk a little bit about this journey and also about the more general transformation from spend analytics to being more predictive analytics as we go into the future and how that can give you a leading edge when it comes to having a grasp of all of your data around what you're spending and what you might be spending in future. So really looking forward to this one. It's been a while since I've spoken to someone from an analytics platform, so excited to get my teeth into this one. So Jeff Gerber, founder and CEO of Suplari, very warm welcome to the show.
All right. Thanks for having me, James.
So Jeff, great to be with you. If you wouldn't mind, in your own words, just tell us a little bit about your journey of founding Suplari and then obviously through the acquisition and changing from being in a huge behemoth of a corporate environment and then back again to being independent as a CEO. And just walk me through a little bit what you think that you can now do as an independent entity again that you couldn't do obviously when you were working under Microsoft's umbrella.
Yeah. So it's been quite a journey. I've been in enterprise software for a very long time, an embarrassingly long time. I've had several different startups, and I was actually at a company called Apptio, which is an IT cost transparency product. I was a chief architect there. In Apptio, we pulled in GL data connected to IT data. So I saw the power of just all the latent information stored in the enterprise. And being able to connect that immediately gave a lot of transparency to these IT budgets, which were growing bigger and bigger. And so Apptio really let the CIO explain to the rest of the business, here's why there's an $8 billion IT budget at FedEx. And, here's all the components of that budget, that supports marketing and sales and all the other functions in the business. And so very powerful product. I learned a lot about sort of siloed data and being able to connect that, but also a very complex product. So it took a long time to implement. But within the first 10 minutes, customers could see things that they just couldn't see before and realized they'd missed opportunities or, like we had a customer that had an auto-renewing contract and it was a $20 million contract and it erased the entire quarter's worth of profit. So the concept around Suplari really came from, this is happening across all factors of the business in the enterprise. Can we build a system that assumes those things are happening and just tell you what you need to do before they happen? So we launched Suplari back in 2016. And the idea was to apply AI to the enterprise. And we landed in procurement. We had some great early design partners. But we quickly learned that no one's going to believe a black box that just says you need to go and fire a supplier without all the analytics to back it up. So we realized we had to build the full analytics stack. And then on top of it, we built an AI platform, which was focused on machine learning circa 2017, and a whole authored environment to build these agents that would scan your data constantly and look for patterns. Is there a highly fractured category of spend or a contract that has some terms that aren't really being utilized correctly, and other ways that you can optimize the business. And so we kind of surfaced these opportunities and then connected that to all the analytics that prove the point. And then we built a system for you to actually take action on these opportunities. We could sort of capture the work and show back that, okay, we identified, $5 million of savings here in this opportunity, and we captured, 4.8 of it. And so you can see a full ROI view of the product. So, we founded the company. We built this capability. We had some great success, and Microsoft came along with an offer that was a great offer and aligned where we wanted to go with the product. They wanted to incorporate our what we call the Insight Generator platform, that AI platform, into a lot of their products. And so in 2021, we were acquired. And I've gone through several acquisitions, and invariably a lot of things change very quickly after you're acquired. And so the whole focus of Suplari integrating into the platform, the Dynamics platform, kind of shifted focus to an integration versus a rewrite and replatform of Suplari, because Microsoft's a platform company and AI happened. And so they wanted to build a platform that hosted AI. All the products on that platform would adopt the AI capabilities much more efficiently, right? So what we found was that required really a rewrite of Suplari and a very long road to get to market at Microsoft. And there were some leadership changes. James Phillips left and Charles Lamanna became the BAP leader in there. And in that process, Microsoft realized that, Suplari is a great product. We have great customers. While the Microsoft customers, they could actually get to market a lot more quickly with generative AI, LLM-based AI capabilities as an independent company without having to rewrite the product. So they approached us and asked if we wanted to do that. And we said, yes, certainly. This is something that's the next step for Suplari, was to build agents that are based on LLMs. So we completed that transaction in 2023. Microsoft continues to be a partner, and it has an ongoing business interest in the company. And we had a lot of learnings while we were during those formative years of sort of Copilot at Microsoft. I was actually deeply involved in the Dynamics Copilot use cases that were developed. So lots of learnings that we carry forward from that experience that we've applied to, how we built out the Suplari agent, which we have in the market now. We built that we spun out at the end of 2023, and 2024 was basically get the company reformed and get capitalized and figure out our customer roadmap and everything, and also the agent roadmap. So we delivered that in 2024, and now our customers are adopting it. So it's a really exciting new chapter for Suplari. So that's kind of the story to where we got to today, and we see a pretty exciting future of where our agent is taking us. But it's really, it was an easy thing to do because our platform was built for AI from the get-go. So there was already the componentry and the deep connection and connectedness into our platform to hook AI. So it was a very natural thing to enable the agent. And we continue to evolve that, and it'll have more and more capabilities, more ability to act autonomously and so on. So I feel like that was a long answer, but the whole question.
No, I think it's always important to get the context, right? Because I think then anyone that's listening to this can get a much better feel for how the product evolved and where it's come from. Because, as you said, a couple of things from your answer that I wanted to touch on, actually. I think being AI native from the get-go, because there are, especially in spend analytics, actually, quite a few of the big names are pretty old companies, and being able to then retrofit that technology with AI is obviously going to present its challenges. I mean, I'm not a computer scientist, but it's a logical conclusion that on a platform that's 10, 15, 20 years old, that's going to present some challenges in the same way exactly that I think Cooper and some of the older platforms in P2P are having similar challenges there. And you mentioned Copilot, actually. Copilot's gotten a lot better recently, hasn't it? I mean, I was playing around with it over the Christmas holiday and built a couple of agents to do RFP generators and quote comparisons, and it's a lot better than I expected it to be when I first went in to play it. So they're definitely doing something right, and that kind of leads me on to what I wanted to ask you, that with the ability now for LLMs and agents and anyone that knows their way around Tableau or maybe knows a little bit of Python, it's not, I won't say it's easy, but it's not difficult now for someone that's got some technical knowledge to be able to build a rudimentary spend analytics tool within a center of excellence team. In fact, I know a couple of people that have done it. And I think that's where platforms like yourselves are going to have to then differentiate yourselves, because then, okay, Fortune 500 company is not going to vibe code their own spend analytics platform, but towards the lower end of the market, that certainly becomes a possibility now.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, procurement typically has been quite a technocratic, quite a risk-averse profession, and playing it safe as being this is the mantra when it comes to buying procurement technology historically. So with that backdrop of being able to build your own solution, if you've got some tech know-how in your COE team, what are analytics companies like yourselves now having to do to move away from that, perhaps being drawn into that net of being considered the legacy platforms? What can you do to innovate while distancing yourself from that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think you have to do more than analytics. And that is not that I think analytics are going away, or will be completely replaced, with a, vibe coded analytics solution, because there's still a cost of ownership. I mean, I think people, it's exciting and it's very powerful and you could do more than you could. But there is at a certain point, the complexity of the system that you vibe code, especially if you're not an engineer, becomes more like the features that you're trying to add are slower, and you break other things, and all of the software engineering acumen doesn't go away. So you need to be able to scale it to some point. And so I think you can answer quick questions. You can solve a particular problem, but then can you do it on an ongoing basis? And can you solve the next problem and not break the first problem? And so I think there's challenges there that people maybe haven't run into yet. But yes, you can do more, and it's incredible. It's exciting. We're in an age of the capability of humans to build things with AI that it's incredible. It's also terrifying because our jobs are going to change, and how will that? What does that mean? So there's all of that, and then I think, but at the same time, where Suplari has to go is beyond just analytics, and that's, I think, a very natural thing, because what we have is that intelligence layer. We've built the scalable, and it's really about discoverable, right? You need to build something that AI can discover and leverage in a natural way, and so because we built the platform from the get-go for AI, all of the pieces are there for AI to leverage our data that's stored in our product in ways that make it a lot more powerful and contextual. We have a semantic layer that describes the data, which you'll end up having to do if you build your own, that allows it to discover all the connections and meaning of the data and answer questions with much more fidelity and accuracy. So you don't have to train it or teach it, right? Out of the box, it's ready to go. And all of that intelligence is, it's always been like, okay, we were showing you opportunities. The idea was like not to show you a bunch of charts and graphs and tables and have you figure out what to do. We were to say, here's what you should do. Here are some opportunities. And then let you dig into the charts and graphs and tables to figure out why that's the right thing to do. So we were already on that journey, but the natural next step is, actually go and do that, right? Take the action. So that intelligence we feel we can inject into, the orchestration, the workflows, the automation that will drive better outcomes, because, you may be able to connect, your automatically generate, PRs and connect them to POs and automate a lot of that process. But should you even create that PO? Is that the right supplier you should go with? So all the intelligence to be able to inject that into the orchestration, we feel is the natural next step for what analytics should do, right? And so instead of just being a passive bystander, actually participate with this intelligence into the workflow.
Which makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here. And every procurement organization that I speak to, I've never met one that says we've got really, really good data. So I guess you're probably going to get the pushback from a CPO at some stage to say, this sounds great, Jeff. I've got some, I could potentially get a budget, but I've got crappy data. I don't have the resources or the capabilities to fix it. I don't have the budget within the project to hire a bunch of consultants to clean the data. How would you answer that objection, or how would you rebut that objection, bearing in mind, with everything now that LLMs can do, and with the agentic possibilities, with what you're doing with Spend Intelligence versus a more static spend analytics platform? How does that become the differentiator?
And frankly, that problem has existed forever, even before AI, right? It was the data problem has just been endemic to the enterprise. And I think the reality is two things. One, data is never perfect, right? It's an incredibly long tail to fix your data and make it perfect. So it doesn't make sense to wait until it's perfect. And the other part of it is you can get a lot done, probably more than you think you can, by getting it, sort of 80% good. And especially now with AI, with the ability to both correct that data and get you further along the road to being the better quality data, more connections in your data, and enriching your data. Right now, AI can connect your data in ways that would be too expensive to do it manually, or not, really tenable to do programmatically. It can, make those decisions to pull in data points on your suppliers, on your products and services that you couldn't do before. So yeah, we've had customers that have gone through that journey, and we've been able to show them, well, actually, they feel like their data is pretty bad, and let's see what we can do. And I think that's the other thing with AI is like, just try, see what you can do, right? Because I think you can, without having to get a huge team of people, you can do things and do experiments that are a lot less expensive. So we can show you what we can do with your data today, and then with some additional AI where we can get it to you in a way that maybe unlocks a lot more capability than you didn't think you had. I think the other one that we've found is, you talked about budget, and what we've seen is thinking outside the box about what else you can do with procurement data that helps other parts of the business. For example, connecting revenue to your spend unlocks some use cases that I think justify more budget for these kinds of investments. So things that you can do to help the CRO in a B2B business, help the CRO build out outreach to their customers by understanding the spend and the revenue with products and services, being able to connect that, looking at balance of trade, looking at patterns of spend. I think there's a lot of real powerful use cases that procurement can deliver to the rest of the business that they traditionally haven't looked at. And AI really does help that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I assume you're referring to where you've got suppliers who are also customers in that particular example. Yeah. How would you then go about, if someone comes to you and says, my data's a mess, how would you go about figuring out whether they are, beyond redemption, or whether there is something that you can salvage and deliver value to? Are you able to knock up a pretty rapid POC if someone says, we've got the resources to help on our side to give you what you need?
Right. Well, so we built what we call the Suplari Unified Data Model, right, which has that semantic layer, right? It's not only entities and relationships and cardinalities and stuff, but it's also meaning around these common relationships and data points. And that lets us do a couple things. One is we could actually be really flexible. You don't have to pull in all the data that our product can handle to start delivering value. We have agents that have certain data points that they require, but they can be turned on without the complete data set loaded into the product. Also, it sort of has built-in data quality assessment. So we know when you pull your data in, our data model can tell you what you're missing and what's maybe you don't have all rows or all data sets don't have maybe a particular dimension. So we kind of get this built-in assessment of quality as you implement our product. So you can do it incrementally. We show you where you are, and we give you the roadmap to, okay, these are the things that you could add that would unlock this capability, right? And so I think a lot of procurement leaders look at their data as this, big ball of wax and don't even, kind of give up because it's too complicated. But actually, if you implement Suplari, we can show you where you are with your data. What does it really look like? Maybe you're not as bad as you thought in some areas. You can actually deliver value in certain areas. And to add some data quality, here's the effort that it would take. And so we can kind of give you that assessment and roadmap to where you want to go, deliver value incrementally along the way. So that's what we kind of, we try to, when we implement a customer, we kind of identify that quick assessment and the roadmap. And the sort of milestones and value points that we can unlock along the way, so that it's not months to implement, it's days and weeks to get to value.
So they've got a pretty good idea early on whether it's going to deliver significant impact. Yeah, so I think it's important when anyone's throwing budget at this type of thing, they want to know quickly whether they're going to get some value from it, and then they can make an informed call whether to proceed or not. When we were prepping this, we're speaking a lot about Suplari being particularly strong in the indirect space. And when you look at indirect spend, particularly in sectors like retail, e-commerce, tech, where you have a lot of tail spend. I mean, you have a lot of tail spend in manufacturing too. But talk to me about a little bit around how the agents that you've developed can help with those specific insights and intelligence versus a more traditional spend analytics tool.
Yeah, I mean, traditional, strategic, you identify your sort of preferred strategic suppliers and focus on that, and then sort of have very maybe one-off projects to go and look at the tail. I think is tough to do when you have, a highly diverse spend with lots of different rotating casts of characters. So with AI, I think there's a lot of things you can. First of all, we have tail spend and analyzer agents that can constantly monitor your tail and tell you, this week we found 4 new suppliers that probably should be on contract, or maybe there was an alternative. So all of the things you want to do on a recurring basis to look at your tail spend that no one has the time to do, now you can automate. And go beyond just telling you, but actually initiate conversations with these suppliers and the rest of the buyers in the business and understand the full picture, build the plan to, sort of bring that spend under management or make the change, and then, participate in that plan. And in terms of communication, initiating contract negotiation, forming contracts, all of the things are now possible with agents, that we can implement in Suplari. And so I think there's a lot more just addressability of that spend, just because it was so onerous to do manually. Now that we can automate that, and you can actually deal with it in a much more programmatic way. And then I think, emerging strategy, like at a high level, building, sort of procurement strategy in a category has also been really tough. And maybe there's so much diversity, like you don't have an expert maybe in shipping in your company, and you didn't even have a category there, or maybe there's a person that left that manages. So now with AI, that knowledge, what our customers are telling us is it's actually very quick to get up for people to get up to speed in the category, because they can work with an agent that has all that knowledge that maybe you lost or that you didn't have. You can build that quickly and enable your team to take on this diverse set of categories that you wouldn't been able to do before, because you either lack the expertise or lack the bandwidth to go and do it.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction, actually. When you look at spend intelligence and also category intelligence, the deep category expertise, and this is particularly predominant in European companies that I've seen, especially Germany and Scandinavia, it's very, very popular to have a deep expertise procurement expert that's been in the same role 10, 15, 20 years in some cases. More on the direct side than the indirects traditionally. But that deep technical knowledge, while it's always nice to have, it's kind of no longer a must-have, is it, with the technology that's now available? I'm not saying that a 23-year-old graduate's going to come in and be just as effective as someone in their mid-50s who's got all of the wealth of knowledge that they've built up over that time, but it at least enables that person coming into the business, new out of university, or maybe as a cross-functional hire, to have some chance. He or she's not gonna sink. And I think that's a big differentiator, especially in terms of recruitment and talent retention and being able to switch people around. I think we all agree that procurement professionals are going to have to be a lot more agile and versatile. And my personal opinion is I think we'll start to see the return of the generalist that maybe has some tech and a little bit of coding experience perhaps in there too, or some marketing and communication presence to be able to be a more rounded professional. And that, I think, is the differentiator. And if we talk about agentic capabilities in a spend intelligence platform, how does someone that's not used this type of software before, how would they use your agentic capabilities to interact with Suplari in a natural language way? Instead of, I'm simplifying it a bit, but is there some kind of chat assistant that they can use to do that?
Yeah, I mean, so that it is interesting because especially if you go to folks that are maybe used to doing category management or sourcing in a particular way, and they're presented with just Copilot, you just kind of do the I don't even know what to ask it kind of a response. So what we built is in our existing, we have a conversational UI, so you can the agent's always available. You can pull it up and talk to it and ask it about anything you see. And additionally, what we've done is because our insight generator agents were already instrumented into the product. Like if you're looking at a supplier, you're seeing the opportunities we identified for that supplier, right? If you're looking at a category, you see the category specific to that. Sorry, the opportunities the agent has identified opportunities and it's showing you in the UI right next to the category. We've instrumented now again into all of those areas out of the box prompts that these are the actions, these are the questions you probably want to ask. These are the actions you might want to take. And so, just by navigating in our user interface, we're showing you suggestions and interesting ways that you might want to interact with AI. And so that leads you down into and what, again, back to the folks that don't know what to ask AI. When we do trainings, prompt training, it's usually like one, well, how about this? And then, that person is off on a tear. They have all the knowledge, right? They just need to be able to get started. Now they're conversing with it. And so those starting points, that's really, I think, the thing you need. And then there's how to formulate a better prompt and so on and all that stuff. But I think as AI is improving, you're seeing it's actually able to deal with, the perfect prompt is not what you're looking for, right? It's really getting across your intent, I think. And we call it the prompt library. It's instrumented into the UI in the relevant places to kick off conversations in every way that we think is most important. And then you can also, as you're having a conversation, you can say, this is an interesting conversation, right? Add this to the prompt library, right? And so we make it really easy for you to create these things and share them with your team, and then they're discoverable.
So someone can come in then into a new role, and as long as someone as their predecessor had been using it effectively, they can pick it up and they're off to the races already with what to ask it.
Yeah, and we have out of the box prompts as well. So what our customers are telling us is that Suplari is helping them just learn how to work with AI very quickly, more quicker than just a blinking cursor, right? Because we have all this context, and they can get going on it really much more quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's when I talk to procurement professionals that use maybe AI in their personal life, they're just a little bit stuck in terms of how to use it in a work environment. They're capable with the technology, but you're right. I think they get stage fright, I think, when they see the blank cursor. And yeah, I think you certainly hit on something there. In terms of ongoing maintenance of the data, so historically, especially in larger organizations, a center of excellence team would probably have a data analyst or two that's consistently managing and reclassifying and recategorizing and cleaning data as that's updated, because spend analytics is static, right? It's a snapshot in time. How does Suplari approach that to take that problem away?
Yeah. So again, because we built the product for AI, we have exposed all the APIs for doing all of the data management, categorization, normalization in a way that's discovered by AI. So our agent has the ability to, we have a self-service categorization UI, right? We have a way for you to build and share categorization rules and taxonomy information. And that's connected to an API that the agent has full access to. So, our customers are able to use our agent to look at uncategorized spend and suggest rules and then apply them to change categorization. We have a whole approval process, so it's AI can participate in that, right? As you build and improve the categorization. So, we and the data, we call it the data engineer agent as well, can look at your data pipeline, understand, issues, evaluate what the next data tranche is going to do to the current view and give you feedback. So what we're really trying to build is the sort of data engineer agent that will basically, as you just said, build and maintain the data pipelines. Because the data pipe, again, been doing this for a long time. Data's always been a problem. Data ETL has always been a problem. It's always a break fix. It's a constantly evolving, transforming, mutating thing. And so, really, I think there's a huge opportunity with AI to finally be able to have real impact. I mean, more connectors to more source systems has never been the answer, right? Because it's not just accessing the source system. It's what's in SAP and why did it change from last month to this month, and how is it different than the other SAP implementation I have? And so all of that is, I think, there's finally an opportunity with AI to build agents that automate the sort of total, life cycle of the data pipeline. So we're really excited about that. And we think that the Suplari data engineer agent will really have a huge impact.
And that also eliminates the institutional memory problem too. I imagine that if people leave companies and their knowledge goes with them, then you've got more than just a snapshot spend analytics at a certain point in time. If you've got that agentic capability and a prompt library and it's constantly refreshing the data and it's working doing that, then you're kind of eliminating the risk of someone that's maintaining their own, I always call them Franken spreadsheets with downloads of spend analytics data that they then tweak in Excel. It's eliminating that problem too.
Yeah.
Do you think then, just conscious of the time and as we look to wrap this up, do you think then with a platform such as Suplari and then some neat AI software on the front end that can make the data visual and look good in a presentation, could that theoretically do most of the heavy lifting in terms of writing somebody's category strategy in the pretty near future?
Yeah, I mean, we have a customer that, first of all, I'll say like evaluating AI is another topic, but the customers that have been the most sort of intentional about understanding what they want to use our agent for and how they will measure it have been really successful in justifying budget and implementing the broad adoption of AI. And we had a customer that basically ran a case study of category strategy planning. They had a group use our agent to build an IT category strategy, and they had a group did it manually. And so they were able to compare and contrast and understand the value. And that was a big upside. Is there was just folks that were not experts became a lot more impactful. Experts had a lot more breadth in terms of building a more comprehensive strategy. So it just in terms of like the full 360 view of what they were doing in this category, it was just a lot more complete, and they were able to build it a lot more quickly. So yeah, I think it really can help massively. I mean, obviously there's folks there's experts in a particular category, especially in certain direct spend categories. There's very deep, some folks just really know how to buy commodities and how to manage that, and that's not going away. But I think it's valuable to get those folks to use AI and have AI learn and capture and basically make that repeatable. And so you don't have the single point of failure. And then the rest, and now you enable the rest of your team to be good as your deep experts. So, I think there's a lot of synergy with folks that really know how to use AI really well. And categories, yeah, it's huge. It's hugely valuable for doing planning. You can do scenarios. things that you would not normally have the time to build out the best plan in the world. You're usually cutting corners and just trying to get it done. You don't really need to do that. You can have the, multiplex across your team with AI, and you can build a much more comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and I would echo that as well. I think that one of the biggest opportunities that we have, speaking more generally around AI in procurement, is just the amount of heavy lifting that it does that formerly, some are mid-senior level category managers, strategic sourcing manager would have had to have done themselves. And that just frees up so much more time for effective supplier management or stakeholder communication to actually implement the category strategy instead of bloody writing the thing, which seems to take up all the time historically. If we can get there, I just think we will be so much more influential in the business if we're able to leverage the technology in the right way to be able to do that. Yeah.
And then to execute the strategy, right? Because
to execute it, 100%. Yeah. And half of that it's sales and marketing rather than procurement then, isn't it? The execution part to a large extent, which is something that I speak about a lot, but it's true. It's something that procurement historically is, dare I say, not being particularly strong at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, saying the same thing with, contracts. We spend all this time authoring a contract, and then, the CLM is sort of like the place where executed contracts go to die, right? And then nobody has the time to go read them and, assess whether that is, are we executing this? There's a performance management of this contract, happening? How do I measure it? So AI again can go through all of that data and tell you if you're leveraging your payment terms and pricing and a lot more effectively than a person could do that manually.
Awesome. Jeff, it's been great to speak to you, and always good to keep up to speed on what's happening in the data analytics and the spend intelligence space. Normally, I ask people, where's the best place to send them if they want to learn more? But you've actually got an AI readiness test, haven't you? So as people can just answer a few quick questions just to check how prepared they are and whether Suplari could be a good fit. So do you want to just say a couple of words about that before we close out?
Yeah, you go to Suplari.com. There's a lot of great information there. And yes, there's an AI readiness test, which we're really excited about. And we'd love to talk to you about your AI journey and how we can help you, achieve your goals and move quicker.
Perfect. Jeff, thanks for coming to talk to me today. And excited to see what the future brings with agentic AI and data intelligence. And one day, maybe I'll be able to get AI to write a category strategy for me from start to finish. Who knows?
I'm sure you will. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
So that was Jeff, CEO of Suplari, talking about the latest movements in the data analytics and spend intelligence space. As always, thank you very much for listening to the show. We know there are a lot of procurement podcasts out there now, so I'm very grateful for you choosing to listen to me on your dog walk or gym session today, or whatever it is you're doing while you're listening to it. Take care. We'll be back again same time next month. Until then, check out resources.endproc.com if you want to grab all of our free downloads, our tech maps, our Venn diagrams, our free AI in procurement starter course is all there. We'd love to get your feedback on anything else you want us to build. Until next time, take care and bye for now.